All right, hello, and congratulations on purchasing your house here in Ohio. I wanted to walk you through the steps of our Ohio contract. It's changed a bit since 2021. So I just want to go over what it's like to buy in Ohio. So this is our contract to purchase, and it will be used to actually write the offer. So the first step to even like before making the offer is going to be um, getting pre-approved or submitting proof of funds if you're buying with cash. And if you're working with me, you're already pre-approved before we're even seeing houses. So that's the first step before you go to see properties, is just to get your purchasing power established. That way we know what we're walking into. The next step, obviously, is the fun part, and that is going to be actually seeing the houses. Once you found a house that you like, we come to this purchase contract. Yeah, I love to show you all in advance what that contract looks like so you're not wondering how the process will go. So I'm just going to walk you through the entire process and this contract. So we'll put the contract date and then the actual property in which that you're buying and the parcel numbers located with it. So parcel numbers are the land that's associated. Typically, it's just the property itself. Yet, if there is another piece of land attached to it that is being sold with the property, we'll put that as well. And then the next thing is it says timeline. So this entire contract is based on of timeline. So everything is time is of the essence for everything. And if we miss a timeline on any of this, then the contract is null and void. So it's really uh, my due diligence to make sure that you all stay on time. And then it's also our transaction coordinator's responsibility to make sure you're on time as well, with the timelines of this contract. And then you as well, you're going to make sure that you know the timelines, yet we'll just kind of keep you all straight. Price and terms. So this is actually the offer price. You do not have to make and you don't have to give asking price. However, in today's market, it's a little different. Things are changing, and so with that being said, houses, if they are priced right, they will still go into multiple offers. Multiple offers aren't crazy where they used to be, where it was like 20 offers at a time. Yet they still are having multiple offers if it's priced correctly. And so I'll let you know if it's in multiple offers, that means that we're giving a fairly strong price or a strong asking price, and we're not going to be going under asking price. If it's not in multiple offers, and then we have a lot of wiggle room. If they don't have any offers at all, then we have a little wiggle room. At the same time, there's pretty much standards. If the house has been on the market for a day or two, that doesn't mean you come in way under asking price. Typically, you come in at asking price, yet it's going to be up to you. And it's also, this is where I will help you. I'll pull comparable properties, just tell you, hey, here's where the market is in this area. Here's where recent solds have happened. And I really want to hone in on recent solds if I can, because that's really going to show us if the house is going to appraise or not. And so I'll get there. So that's the price. Earnest money. Here in Ohio, specifically the Dayton area, we ask for earnest money. You do not have to put it down. Yet it's pretty much like common to do that. And earnest money is about 1% of the price of the asking price. So, if it's 200,000, you're going to be putting $2,000 down. Earnest money is going to go towards your down payment or your closing cost. And if you don't have to do either of those, then it'll just come back to you at closing. And so Earnest money is going to be held at my broker's account in our trust account. It cannot be in the form of cash. It has to be a check because your lender, if you are using financing options, has to see that it cleared. And then if you're not using financing options, then still our company needs to see that your check has cleared too and your funds are good. So this is the first kind of way to make sure that your proof of funds are good. And so typically this doesn't come into play until once the contract is accepted. So that's what it says here. You have to put it in, and I just put 3 days. Otherwise, it defaults to 3 days, 3 calendar days once the offer is accepted. So if we write an offer today and it gets accepted, then tomorrow starts the first day of the 3-day period to submit the earnest money. Now, this entire section right here talks about how you can get your earnest money back. And I'm going to go through that with you all when I go over the contract now. So the next portion is settlement charges. You'll see this. Settlement charges are part of that closing cost. So closing costs are lender's fees, prepaids are taxes, title, and insurance. And then the discount points are also the lender's fees. So this is what make up the actual what you need to come to closing with. And so sellers can pay for a portion of this. If you are conventional, then they can pay up to 3%. If you're FHA, VA, they can pay up to 6% of the asking price in settlement charges. Typically what I find is settlement charges range from 2 to 5% of the purchase price. So that's what we can ask for on this line. Again, if we're in a really competitive multiple offer situation, then I would suggest not doing it. If it's been sitting for a while and I see that we can do it, then I definitely will ask for it because my job is to really help you guys get a deal. If not, win the offer as well. Okay, so the first financing contingency in order to get this earnest money back that you submitted would be this. So it's this entire contract is making sure that you're contingent on being financed. So if for some reason it goes through underwriting and the underwriter states that you can't purchase the property, then the earnest money will get returned to you. So there's all of our different options. So this is also important, this line. Buyer intends to use the real estate for the following purpose. If you're going to own or occupy it, let me know. If you're going to rent it, let me know. Or if it's going to be like a secondary home, we'll put other or something like that. The reason is we need to know this because this can play on mortgage fraud so the IRS doesn't come after you. So that's why we need to know that. But yes, here's the next, just all the different ways that we have financing. However, the seller will know upfront based off of your pre-approval or your proof of funds what your financing is. This next section just states that, one, if you're working with me, like I say, you already have a pre-approval up front, so we'll attach the pre-approval to the offer when we write it. The next is something called the intent to proceed. So this is a period of time in which I give my buyers so that they can sit down, lock in a rate with their lender, and discuss the actual financing terms. So you'll be discussing what your rate is, what your mortgage payment looks like, what the cash to close looks like. And then you'll also be signing all of your documents with the lender, and then you'll also be turning in all of your documents. Here's just a helpful hint. If you want this transaction to go really, really smooth, when you get the pre-approval, there will be a list of things that you need to turn in. If you can submit those items as soon as possible, even before you start shopping for a house, the better. Your transaction will go very, very smoothly. You'll be happy. It won't be stressful. The lender will hardly be bugging you to get documents. So the more that you can give up front, the easier it will be for you. So that is that portion. I typically give 10 days for my clients to do this. In this time too, if you do not have a lender, which I honestly don't recommend shopping too many lenders, yet if you don't have a lender solidified, this is the time, but do know that this 10 days is tight, and so are lenders schedules to do intent to proceeds, because they're constantly doing these with other clients as well. So make sure you keep that in mind. The next portion is actually, when will you get a conditional approval? I typically put here it's going to take about 20 to 25 days, and then from there we'll get a clear to close. So that's after your appraisal has been cleared, after you've turned in all of your items, you'll get a clear to close, and they've verified that your funds are there and you can close. So you'll get that. And so that typically takes about 3 to 5 days. So in total, the process takes about 30 days. And again, it depends on lenders. If you have a really good lender, they can get it done within 30 days. So that's the first contingency item, is your financing. The second one is the appraisal contingency. So this is really big. If the house, the lender, first of all, sends someone to determine whether the property that you're buying is worth it. So let's say that we're buying a $100,000 house here. Just for math purposes, to make this really easy. So you're buying a $100,000 house. You offered $100,000. The appraisal, the lender's appraiser comes out. He runs comparable properties. He or she runs comparable properties and finds that the value of the home is actually worth $95,000. If it's worth $95,000, you have options. One, you can ask the seller to renegotiate the terms and drop the price to $95,000. Two, you can cover the cost. So you can, out of your own pocket, pay an extra $5,000 to meet the $100,000. Or three, you can walk away from the contract. If you walk away from the contract, then you'll get your earnest money back. People are going to ask, well, what if it appraises at 105? If it appraises at 105, then congratulations, you have instant equity. You just have $5,000 of equity into your house. So congratulations on that. And we continue to move forward. You can't back out of the contract because it appraised. So that is the appraisal contingency. The next portion is inclusions and exclusions of the sale. So when you're going through the home and you're looking at everything, typically appliances stay. And so they're already actually written into the contract. And so typically, microwaves, refrigerators, dishwashers, all of that ranges are included. Anything outside of that we'll write in, and I also just write them in again just so that we're aware of what it's saying. So I say all kitchen appliances, because if they have a garage out if they have a refrigerator out in their garage, then you don't want that one to stay, and they take the one in the kitchen. Yet if you want both of them to stay, then I specify it. So that's where I'll put that. And then items that are excluded, you can place certain items that you don't want. Honestly, I highly recommend just keeping all the items and then selling it later. Yet if you don't want to go through that hassle, we can exclude items right away. Certificate of ownership. So this is, the seller is certifying that they own everything that they're including with the sale. If for some reason we see that it's not there, then they have to either buy you that same item of equal value or greater value, or they give you money for it. So that's certifying that they own it, because some people do have tenants in there, so it really might be their stuff. Seller certification. So on here, this is a long list of items, yet this is just certifying what the seller knows. And typically we'll know the information too. So you'll know if it's located in a historic district because there's going to be certain things that you can do. We'll know if there's going to be a lease or not because we'll know, like typically they'll state up front that, hey, this is a tenant. There's a tenant living in there. And then HOA will know if there's a HOA, floodplain, same thing, municipal pre-sale inspection. So that's when the city comes out and actually has to inspect prior to you buying the home. They have to inspect the seller's portion. There's really only a few places that have this. That's Oakwood, Inglewood, and Clayton. So if you're buying in there, then they have that, and Union, Ohio. Yeah, otherwise you're fine with that. And don't take their municipal pre-sale inspection as an inspection. It's really just to make sure that certain things are up to city code prior to the seller selling and prior to you buying the property. So, homeowners association, like I said, we'll know if there's a homeowners association. However, there are things that come with this. So, typically with homeowners associations, you will get their bylaws, their minutes for the previous 2 years. That way you can see the different meeting minutes and what those look like. So, if they're planning on, reducing the price of the HOA or maybe upping it, you'll know all of that and any other pertinent documents you will have. And so we have, I typically give 3 days to get the seller, calendar days following the contract to acceptance. So again, if we bought it today, or if we made an offer today, it got accepted today, tomorrow would be the first day of that 3-day countdown. And so with that being said, the sellers will have 3 days to turn in all of those documents to us. And then you will have 3 days to read them and disapprove of them. So, if you're needing time, like if you're like, oh, I have a really busy work week, can we do 5 days or something like that? Sure. Just let me know. Yeah, you'll need to read through these and really state whether you agree or disagree. If you read them and you're fine, then we'll continue moving forward. If you are not okay with them, then we can back out and you'll get your earnest money back. Maintenance. So how we see the property is how it should be delivered to you, even up until possession. So sometimes when you close on the home, the seller still may have possession for a certain period of time specified in the contract. That does not mean that they are not allowed to maintain the property. They still have to maintain the property how you saw it before you purchased it. So if there's any pipes that leak, that's on them. They need to get it fixed, not on you. If they do something to the property, that's on them now. It's considered a breach of contract. It's not on you. So maintenance is pertinent, and this is also why we do walkthroughs. I encourage walkthroughs prior to closing. That way we can definitely make sure that the property is how we saw it. Nothing is leaking. Repairs are made that we may have asked from the seller in the inspection period. Anything like that is done. And the reason why is because it never fails, to be honest. The people that don't get walkthroughs call me and they tell me, hey, my water heater is leaking or something like that. And we didn't do a walkthrough, so we don't know if it was leaking prior to that or if it just randomly started happening once you close on the property. If it just started happening, there's nothing that we can do. Yet you want to ensure that nothing like that is happening. All the outlets, everything works how you saw it. So that is that time. And then also it is going to be it's crucial that you know that, hey, when we do the walkthrough, typically the house is going to be empty now. If it wasn't empty already, it'll be empty. So casual wear and tear is normal. And what that means is scuffs on the wall. That's normal. We're not asking them to repair those nail holes from taking like picture hangings and whatnot. That's normal. You're not asking them to, that's casual wear and tear. But if it's like big holes, like, someone accidentally fell through, I don't know, or like knocked something over or something like that, yeah, we're going to ask them to replace that or take care of that. So that's maintenance. And then home warranty program. So you can ask the seller to pay for a home warranty or you can buy a home warranty. Home warranties are not the same as home insurance. Home warranty is just covering all the major appliances in the property. And they typically have a money value assessed with them. I typically see home warranties no more than $600 to $700. Property disclosure form. So this is a disclosure that is from the seller that just states everything that they have experienced since living there. So if there's been any leaks, anything, they will tell you about it within the past 5 years. So if they've owned the home for 25 years and it happened in the first year that they lived there, they're not going to disclose that because it's not pertinent. It didn't happen in the last 5 years. So it's all stuff that has happened in the last 5 years will be on there. Buyer's offsite acknowledgement. This is very important. So prior to making an offer, it's your due diligence to actually go and look at the property, look at the neighborhood, see if there's any sex offenders, see if there's this crime stats. That is your due diligence to make sure that you do all of that. You cannot back out of the contract because you failed to do this and you failed. That cannot be a reason. If you do, it's considered a breach because you were warned to do this in the contract. The next portion, and also if you're not here and this is something like you're like, how do I know? This is something that I can help you with as far as giving you resources to take a look at. So you can see that. And then also, if you have friends here that live here already, ask them. Ask them for areas. They will have recommendations of, hey, don't avoid that area or don't. I cannot do that. It's a fair housing violation if I do that. So I can't steer you in any certain direction. You have to actually do your own due diligence about where you want to live and the neighborhoods that you want to be in. Real estate inspection contingency. So this is the next contingent portion of where you can get your earnest money back. So you will have a period of time where you can either A, do an inspection or not do an inspection. I, Erin Warfield, will never, ever, ever, ever tell you not to get an inspection. I just cannot do it. I will not do it. And if you choose to not get an inspection, it will actually make you sign something that states that I told you to get an inspection, you waived it. So you're also going to sign this contract stating that you waived it too. So there's going to be two different places that, hey, I told you to do it, you waived it. Even if it's a brand new build home, get an inspection. The reason is, especially if you're building a house, the reason is the inspector is going to look at it prior to drywall going up, and then they're going to look at it with drywall on there. So it's really important that you know where certain things are, because if you're hanging a picture and then you're hanging like you're putting a nail into the water hose line, that's awful for you. So getting an inspection, telling you where certain things are, telling you about your house is really crucial, and it's worth the money. Inspections range from anywhere from $300 to $600 plus. That just depends. The more you get, the more add-ons you get, like radon, well, septic, all of those cost money. Chimney, that all cost money. So the more you get, the more it's going to cost. Yet, in my opinion, it's well worth it. In this inspection, the inspector is going to find everything, and you want them to find everything. You want them to tell you exactly about what you're buying, about your property. Yet they're going to find everything. Some and most will be minor maintenance things, homeowner things. Those minor maintenance routine items are not to be asked for in the defect notice. So the notice that we write to the seller that, hey, there's a defect. Minor cosmetic maintenance issues are not considered defects. What are considered defects are major items. So plumbing, roof, electric. Those are major items, and also your inspector will help you identify what's major and what's not. And that's what we write up in the defect notice. And with that being said, the seller does not have to do any of the items that you request. So you're writing a defect notice, yet the seller can look at them and state that they are not going to do them. If they state that they're not going to do them, then you can terminate the contract and get your earnest money back. If they state that they'll do some and not all, this is where we kind of get in a sticky situation. And we will then have a period of time to work this out. So, inspection period, I typically give 14 days to get the inspection done. I tell my clients, hey, this begins the day after the contract is accepted. So the countdown, again, if we make an offer today, it gets accepted today. The first day starts tomorrow of the 14-day inspection period. And with that being said, it's really important that we get this done ASAP. That way, we can get any quotes that we might need. We can do anything that we might need in this time period, and have it all written up for them in the defect notice. And then you send the defect notice. So if you send the defect notice on day 7 of your inspection period because you're like, I'm good, this is what I want to write up. So if you send it on day 7, your inspection period stops at day 7. You don't have 14 more days. It stops. And you're fine with that. So then it continues to consideration period. So I typically give the sellers 3 to 4 days. And so this is their time to consider what you have written. You cannot add on items after the inspection period is done. You can't add on defect notice items. So if they say, hey, we'll do items 1 through 3, but not 4 and 5, you can't say, okay, well, hey, we wanted this done too. Can we throw that in? You can't add any additional items in that period. So as soon as the sellers respond to what they're doing, that ends the consideration period and starts the settlement period. So if it takes them 1 day to respond to what they'll do, then the next timeline starts down. And so typically I give 3 to 4 days on the settlement period, but this is the time frame in which we have to come to an agreement. If we don't come to an agreement, we either A, have to extend, or B, the property or this contract is null and void. You get your earnest money back, and they go back on the market. This is how the contract can automatically terminate. If there's any hazardous materials, I also put on this line mold. You can automatically terminate the contract, and you will know. Property survey, get this done during the inspection period. So, if you are looking to get a fence and you really want to know where the boundary lines are, get it done then. If not, then you get it done after closing. A survey costs about $500. So you're really just going to have to decide, like, do I want it now or do I want it later? If the seller already has a fence, then you're golden. Property insurance verification. You will have 14 days beginning of the contract acceptance dates to confirm your insurance. So if you get your insurance, your homeowner's insurance after after this inspection period, you can't back out because the premium is high. You have to do it within your inspection period. So that's also important that you have a homeowner's insurance nailed down. That way, you know what the premium is. The seller agrees to cooperate to letting us in and getting our inspections needed during that time. Title insurance. This is really huge. I tell my clients to buy title insurance. Title insurance is, there are two forms. So the owner's policy title insurance, and then there's also enhanced title insurance. It's not on this contract, but I can write it in for you. Owner's policy title insurance is to make sure that the property that you're buying, there's no liens on it placed on it after closing. So your title search happens one time. I tell all of my clients to do this. I've been licensed for 6 years, and in the first 4 years, I've had this happen 6 times, where basically we're under contract, we're about to buy, title does the title search, they pull it, and then they see, hey, the seller, when they bought the house, the deed wasn't recorded correctly, and the old person's mortgage, the old seller's mortgage, wasn't paid off all the way. So now we have to hunt down that old person with their mortgage and get them to pay off the remaining balance. You know how hard that is? Some people have already passed away. Some people are like, no, I'm not going to pay that. So the buyer or the seller either has to pay it off immediately if they don't have title insurance, or if they do have title insurance, boom, it's fine, it gets covered. So this happens because of human error. Like, that was someone's mistake to not pay off the mortgage correctly. So I just tell my clients, get this. It's going to help you. It's going to protect you for when you go to sell this property. Or if you ever decide to do a title change or anything like that, it's just going to protect you. If when you decide to do a title change, they have to run a title search again. So it's just going to protect you with this. It's about $5.75 per every $1,000. So again, if we're buying a $100,000 home, it's going to cost a total of $575. You can ask the seller to pay the entire title, owner's policy title and insurance premium, or you can buy the entire expense, or you can ask the seller to pay up to $300 of it. If we're in multiple offer situations, I will just say that you're doing it. If we're not, then we can discuss that. Taxes and prorations. 2 different types of taxes and prorations. Basically, here in Ohio, we have our taxes short and long. In the Dayton area, Montgomery, there's certain counties that have a standard tax proration. Short, so is in Montgomery County, Greene County, Warren County, and Miami County have a standard of short tax proration. So what that typically means is that taxes are paid 6 months in arrears. It's going to just be who and how the taxes and how your escrow account is set up. I'll send you more information on this, but typically what you should know is that if it's standard, I typically check short proration. If it's not standard, then I don't check it. And the reason is when you go to sell the home, you'll want the person to do short proration. That way, the taxes that you've already paid, you get a credit back for them. It's just a matter of 6 months taxes, and I can explain this more and in detail when we make an offer. Otherwise, this video is going to be really, really long of me going over it. So just make a note. I'll explain it a little bit longer and more in detail. But basically, it's a matter of 6 months. That's all you need to know. And short it's really good for the seller, but it'll also be good for you if you go to sell it in the future. Otherwise, long is good for you, and it's also something that you can use in terms of if you're not asking for closing costs, you can offset it by putting long because you're asking the seller to front you six months of not insurance, of taxes in your closing cost. Conveyance and closing. Here is where I put my title company. Possession and occupancy. This is typically the same date as closing. If not, it's specified, and so we'll put that up front. And then there's an expiration timeline as far as when the contract is actually expires or offer expires. And then the seller can either do one of three things: accept, reject, or counter. If they counter, then you can either accept, reject, or counter. And the timeline continues to move from there. So this is our contract. If you breach the contract outside of all of the reasons that I gave for contingent, like this, it's contingent on this, and this, then you do not get your earnest money back. It goes to the seller. If there's ever a disagreement on who the earnest money goes to, it will stay in our broker's account for 2 years. At the end of 2 years, you'll get it back. It automatically comes back to the buyer in the state. If you really feel strongly and passionate about it, you can take it to court, to the common court, and just get it resolved there, depending on how much it is. If it's $10,000 or more, you'll need an attorney. If it's not, then you'll just go and file it and spend a day in court getting that done. So that is where that's the earnest money situation. But again, that's 1%. Hope this helps now that you understand. Let me tell you about some out-of-pocket expenses, though. First out-of-pocket expense is going to be that earnest money. So that is going to range from 2 to 5%. I mean, not 2 to 5%, 1% of the purchase price. So that's your first out-of-pocket expense. The next out-of-pocket expense is the appraisal. That costs about $400 to $600. And it's going to be due at the time of your appraisal. And then same with your inspection period. It's going to be $300 to $600. Those are all out of pocket, due upfront expenses. And that's it. I hope this helped you all, and I hope you were able to take something away from it and have a better understanding of our contract. That way you can make a better offer. All right. Have a wonderful day.